"But what if I never become great like my grandfather?" whined Sango, with a solemn look upon his face. He continues, "Grandfather Anansi was so wise, so mighty, so strong and so valiant, none of which I am." Sikisi's face hardened at the boy's words, his brow furrowed, accompanied with a steel gaze in his eyes, his lips curled, pushing his cat-like nose up, exposing his sharp teeth. Sikisi snarled, "Grrr," before he shouted, with an intensity that shook Sango to his core, "What if you never become great like Anansi Sango? No, you will not be as great. You will be greater, wiser, stronger, more valiant, more mighty." Sikisi's expression and tone softened as he spoke his next words to Sango. "You will be more young prince. I have told you the stories of Anansi's greatness, but not of who he was as a boy and young man before he was known as Anansi, the Enfu Isakopo. Anansi was not always a great man. Matter of fact, he was just the opposite, even though very talented. Anansi was considered a vagabond, lazabout and trickster. See, he was the youngest son of a blacksmithing family, whose father was the greatest smither of Idan weapons. He never showed much interest in weapon making. As being the youngest, his mind was always on playing tricks and relaxing in the baobab tree, fantasizing about what trick he could play next and how funny it would be. He would snicker to himself, "Hey, that would great and funny," soon earning him the name Anansi, the trickster. He spent his days like that, endlessly lazing about, eating fruit and playing tricks, until one day disaster struck. On his 20th birthday, his village was raided while he was lazing about. When he came home, his entire village was razed to ashes. He ran as fast as he could to his home, hoping his family was okay. But the scene he walked into was not what he wanted to see. His sister, his father and mother were all dead, their blood plastered all over their home, the forge covered in body parts, the floor on which he once played as a child drenched in a sea of blood. The house reeked of death. Anansi throws up at the sight of it all, and with tears streaming down his face, he lets out the loudest cry, "No! I was just about to tell you about my day." He sobbed as he held his dead mother's body in his arms. He puts his mother down and gets up to inspect the rest of the village to see if anyone survived the attack. He runs from house to house as every home looked like his. Homes on fire, shops burned down, entire families dead. Bodies upon bodies littered about like ripped-up papyrus thrown in the wind. He thought to himself, "I had heard whispers of fighting and raids happening, but I never thought it would come here." His older brothers were off training their Idan, and he would not see them for another 2 years. At that moment, Anansi realized he was alone. He alone had to start the task of burying the bodies and marking the graves, planting the food and tending to what little cattle was left. After placing all the bodies, he swore to himself that he would never play another trick. In fact, he would begin training himself, and once strong enough, he would go to find his brothers in the village of the Aje. So Anansi went on every day for 1 year tending to the village and training himself, until 5 days after his 21st birthday, he headed out with the meager rations and small cattle he had to sell at market and eat himself. During his travels, he ran into all kinds of problems in every village he went to, from slave trading to evil and greedy leaders. He began to fight and free the slaves, dispose the leaders, and save entire townships. He eventually earned the name Anansi, the Liberator. And after 2 years' travel, he finally runs into his siblings and tells them of the events that happened. They all cried and maligned their training with the Aje. The 5 brothers began to argue about the best way to seek revenge. Suddenly Anansi hollers, "Brothers, fight me, to see who is the strongest. If you all win, I will follow you. But if I win, you all must follow me. For I have a plan. a plan for conquest and unity. If I win, we go to the Ivory Palace and train in the Gate of Champions, join the king's army, and unite Alkebulan under my kingship." His brothers laughed, saying, "Beat us, kingship, follow you. Anansi the lays about, Anansi the trickster. Ha 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 ha, ha the laughed hardly. You could never beat us." The eldest brother Heru spoke sternly. "Anansi, this is laughable, though you are very talented, even more than I. You are lazy and unmotivated. We will not fight you today. You will listen to us, and we will get revenge." And right before the others could speak, the elder Ajay Ashanti spoke to Anansi, saying, "Come here, young one. Let me take a good look at you." Anansi stood up, shook his head, yes, then walked over. Ashanti grabs Anansi's hand, looks at it, flicks his hair, then looks into his eyes and says, "Yes, yes," and whispers into Anansi's ear, "You are the unifier. This is a fight you will win." Anansi looks shocked by her words. She steps away and says, "Brothers on Impundulu, you will fight your youngest brother Anansi. If you do not, you will fight me in his stead." She finished cheekedly. The four brothers were taken aback, yelling, "Ajay Butt." She interrupts, "I have spoken, you five will fight in the rising. With one caveat, you four must fight Anansi at the same time. Now rest up. You five have a big day tomorrow." She turns around, folds her arms behind her back, giggling to herself as she walks away. The brothers are not pleased. But the Ajay's decrees cannot be challenged. They stare at Anansi angrily. Before they look to head off, Ajay Ashanti says, "Oh, show Anansi to his room. I am so tired. Will you help an old lady?" The brothers in unison say, "Yes, Ajay, we will." Once again they give Anansi a stern look and show him to his quarters for the night. The next day, in the training yard, which is meager in size, 20 yards by 20 yards, surrounded by a small rickety wooden fence made of old tree limbs, a compacted dirt floor, and a few oldish-looking wooden training dummies, stands Anansi surrounded by his four brothers, Heru, Adechike, and Amadu. A vibrant and excited crowd of 80 people stand watch to see if Anansi will win. The Ajay Ashanti stands just outside of the gate and begins to start the match. She says, "Today we have a special honor. Today the 5 brothers of Impundulu will fight to see who will become the leader of the house. Will the brothers become unified under Anansi and his will to untie the land of Alkebulan, or will they go travel and seek revenge on the marauders that ravaged their village?" The crowd gasped in awe and shock at the announcement. They clamored with excitement. Ajay Ashanti raises her arm, and in one swift motion of her arm swinging down and breath saying, "Begin!" Amadu, the third oldest brother, bellows, "Youngest brother Anansi, we will not go easy on you." As the four charge in, Anansi retorts, "Nor I you," as his brothers charge him. Anansi channels his Idan. His eyes become white as clouds. Brilliant white lines runs down his arms, on his face and body. He focuses energy into his fist, as they glow a bright yellow. He emits a burst of energy from the ground, sending a wave of dust across the ground. He throws his fist in the air, bringing it down, punching the ground, sending a shock wave through the earth beneath their feet. The ground cracks and ripples, knocking over the spectators and sending his four brothers flying in the air. Anansi seizes the chance. He jumps in the air, strings his yellow light flashing behind him. Flying towards Aid, he grabs him by the arm, punches him in the stomach, knocking him out. Kicks off Aid's body to propel himself to Amadu. Aid crashed to the ground, bang, leaving a 2-foot-deep dent in the ground. Anansi catches Amandu by the leg, spinning him around and launches him out the ring. His body crashes through 2 trees, breaking them, as his body bounces into the third one, where he comes to a stop and is knocked out. Anansi swiftly looks to his left and bolts towards Chiki using 2 feet to kick off a chunk of ground that is still in the air. Right arm extended, Anansi grabs Chiki by the abdomen, hurling him to the ground. Cheek's body slams into the ground with a thunderous boom. Cheek's eyes go white, and he gasps for air as he hits the ground. Stone is slamming into the ground as Anansi looks up to see Heru. Anansi thinks to himself quickly, I didn't want to use this right now. I'm losing things to jump off. The chunks of ground are falling faster than I thought they would. Guess I have to if I want to win this fight. Anansi shouts, Wings is light! Then 2 white wings tipped with gold appeared on Anansi's back, with one mighty flap of his wings. Anansi speeds towards Heru and hits him in the gut with the handle of his sword, knocking out his oldest and strongest brother, catching him in his arms and floating down to the ground, placing his eldest brother at the feet of Ashanti. No one was able to see what had transpired but the Ajay. The fight was over as quick as it started. Healers walk over to heal the brothers of their injuries. After Heru, Adi, Chike, and Amadu wake up, Ajay Ashanti declared Anansi the winner. See, young Sango, your ancestor Anansi was not always a great man at the beginning. He became that way. But you, Sango, are made that way. Anansi grew strong to defend and avenge those he loved. You, Sango, were made strong. You never quit. You've never lazed about. You are already greater than Anansi already. Our training is over for the day. Go play. We will continue your training tomorrow. Sango quickly stood up and said, Sorry, Sikisi, I will never say such a thing ever again. Then ran off to go find his playmates. Sikisi sits down sighing to himself, having the thought, how can I protect this boy? How can I guide this boy when he doubts the talent he has?